This is the Rest of Everest video podcast, an almost unabridged expedition experience. Episode 42, A Day in the Life.
Hey you, are you walking all alone? Can I just...
Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Rest of Everest video podcast. I'm John Miller. This is where I'm going to begin resuming the regular weekly release schedule. I sure apologize for all of those weeks without a regular episode, but as most of you know, I was pretty busy. I was a little bit out of town. You might say that Everest Base Camp is out of town, but had obviously a great time. I hope all of you were able to catch the Tibet 2007 teaser video I released last week. Gives you a really good overview of the entire trip, but this week we're going to go back up to base camp in 2003 and continue on from where I left off from episode 41. So let's go back up to base camp. Here we go. Okay, so this is one of those things that lots of people have been curious about and hadn't approached the subject until now. But what you are looking at in the distance there, that pile of rocks in the kind of the upper left-hand side that I'm walking to there, that is our toilet. And it seems like it might be a little bit rough. This is actually a structure that the Sherpas built for us after our toilet tent was blown down in the windstorm. And, it's pretty simple. You've got a hole to squat over. And that ring of rocks provides a little bit of privacy, but more importantly, it's a windbreak. But it's a pretty simple affair, and I have to say that was such a pleasure to use after that stinky toilet tent, which would just cook all day long in the bright sun. This one was open air, and that wall covers you to, as you're doing your business, it covers you to about your shoulders. And so, people walking past can see, they know exactly what you're doing, and it just becomes a non-issue. You can chat with people while they're walking by, and they wave at you, you wave back. It's all good. So it was a wonderful, wonderful toilet, and I returned to base camp a few weeks ago and saw it there, and it was obviously very popular because it was full, full to the brim. So that was a good structure. Good work, guys. Anyway, this is a major time lapse that I shot later on in the day after shooting that toilet. And it kind of shows you what it looks like during almost an entire day at Everest. And you can always see how, I've said it before, that Everest is always the last thing illuminated at night. Unfortunately, my battery died, so I don't have all the way into the evening here, but this is it again. So you can see people coming and going, and of course you can see those clouds rolling in. But if you look about in the middle of the image here, you'll see a bunch of dots going up and down on the moraine. Those are people going to and from Advanced Base Camp. And you can see how the summit kind of comes and goes throughout the day, gets hidden by clouds. So let's break this down. Let's take a look at just what goes on during a day at the Nomad Expeditions camp. Okay, so this is the time lapse again. I'm going to run it a little bit slower now, and I'm going to freeze here and there and point out a few different things so you can kind of see what it's like during a day at Everest. All right, so right there, that's Dawa, our cook, and I think Boca, and they are off to get water. They're carrying a water bucket. Water was about 1 kilometer away, and they would go and they make several trips. You'll see them take several trips. That looks like that might be Alan going off to socialize with some of his French friends. That right there is probably a Tibetan yak herder coming to get some tea or just to hang out with our Sherpa staff. Always great to hang out with those guys. That right there is most likely Pasong, and it looks like he's probably doing some dishes, cleaning up from breakfast. And the Sherpas are always busy. There's always something to do. That right there is probably just someone coming over to say hi. We always had visitors. We were a very popular camp. I don't quite know why, but it was always good. All right, that right there looks like that's my friend Tom and someone else probably coming over to say hello and maybe see if they can check email with our satellite modem. That right there looks like Pasong again. Coming or going. It's always hard to tell exactly what's going on in these time lapses. That right there is most likely Andre. That was his tent, that light green tent. And it's possible he's taking a pee there. That right there is Pasong. No, that's not Pasong, that's Pemba. And he is doing laundry. Probably doing his own laundry there. Hanging it on the big space station dome tent. That right there is Dawa. Probably heading off to get some more water. It was windy this day, so he's wearing a windbreaker. All right, so this is Julian, Rupert, and company, and Dawa bringing water back. Julian and Rupert were most likely coming over to say hello to me and check their email. Here is, that's going to be Bertrand and a friend, not sure who the friend is, coming back from socializing. Bertrand was always popping from camp to camp saying hello. There he is again. That might be our friend, the producer from the Chinese camp in the red there. Or that was Dawa. There's Bertrand getting into his tent. You see those line of 3 tents there. That one is his, the middle one is mine, and the far one near the orange tent was Ben's. That looks like Bertrand again in the middle there, and probably Alan coming back from socializing himself. A lot of socializing going on at base camp, and there's Bertrand heading back to someone else's camp, probably to have lunch somewhere. These guys were always coming and going. A lot of activity at base camp. That looks like Bertrand again coming back. He might actually be going to place a satellite phone call. Yeah, there he is on his sat phone right there. See people coming and going up the moraine, heading to and from Advanced Base Camp. Always a lot of action. You can tell that this is mid-season because there's not a lot of yak trains heading up to ABC. There's only a few probably heading up to resupply now and then. Yep, there's some people walking back to base camp from ABC. You can kind of get some scale there. Base camp was a very large area. There's a yak train coming down from Advanced Base Camp. Probably these guys had gone up and had resupplied a camp and now are coming back down a day later or so. There is someone looking to see if maybe they can check their Hotmail. That's probably why. What am I kidding? It's not because of me. It's because of the fact that I had internet access. That's why we had a popular camp. There I am. I think I have been taking a nap, and I'm waking up from my nap and stepping outside. Again, that's my tent there. Yep, and that's probably why I had to wake up from the nap. That's me taking a pee right there next to my tent there. Wasn't a big deal. All water evaporated instantly at base camp. That looks to be me with my laptop, heading back into my tent, probably to write a dispatch. Update people on the progress of Ben and Lawang and Lakpa. And you can see there goes the sunset with the summit, the last thing lit. The last thing on the planet in this part of the world to be lit. So that's what it looked like at base camp.
Hi, I'm Pat.
This was the next day.
I'm I'm one of the support climbers on the X-Bed. I'm going to be going up to the North Col and basically staying there for a lot of it, but also climbing up above the North Col to meet the summit teams as they come back down.
Pat was
so that we can
with the Royal Navy.
get them some extra fluids, because water's going to be a big problem up top for the guys that are going up above Camp 4 and 5. I'm just going to have a quick admin vortex, try to sort out my kit that I need to take up. A lot of the gear's already up there anyway, so most of the hardware, in fact all of the hardware and the sort of heavy clothes that we'll be wearing, down suits etc. is already up there at Advanced Base Camp. So basically all we need to do from here is go up with walking kit really in a sleeping bag, which takes us up to Advanced Base Camp, where we can then have a quick change.
I'm going to stop you real quick, hold on a second. Whoop.
Pat was great. He was really nice to let me film all of this of him.
These barrels are good because it means that most of the stuff can actually not clutter up your tent. But it also means that if you've got a big barrel, you tend to fill it full of rubbish that you don't actually need when you come out in the first place.
Do you mind if you pack some of the stuff in your tent and I stick the camera through the window there?
Yeah, sure, if I just have a
That
wee,
way people can see what you sleep in.
if I just have a little tidy up, then I'll go in and you can
Andy's going to pick doctory stuff.
Oh, really?
Oh, I can hear him behind me is Fiona Shepherds.
Just trying to sort out.
She was their press
using a
PR
compact
person.
to write an email home, and then
And this is
take it to the
Swifty.
tent and they'll send it for me. So just starting this.
How many of those do you have? 3? 3
One of these, but
palm size?
2 bigger ones.
Yeah.
2 slightly bigger ones. This is it's all new to me, all this stuff.
These guys were great. You know, there were so many of them, and we'll catch up, get a better look at their camp in its entirety next episode. But I have a real soft spot in my heart for these guys because they were really good group of people, and they really welcomed me into their camp. And especially letting me film all of this stuff was really great. They were a military expedition. And so it was really neat to see how they did things. It was done quite differently from us.
You ready?
Yep.
You comfortable with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good old Pat again.
Aye, right.
You've made use of your space.
This is my home from home. Every bit of space is used. I've got a camp bed with an inflatable mattress, my sleeping bag, and my big base camp bag, which is huge, but I've got all my possessions in there. Basically, with a string lashed up and around, one of the best ways we've got of drying clothes is vent the tent, get the ends of the tent open, and you can hang your socks, your underwear, your t-shirts, whatever else, up in the tent, even though they're damp. Because the air's so dry and arid here, the moisture from the clothes drying actually helps to moisturise a bit of your tent, because your clothes are clean, they're just drying off, and at the same time you can air your tent off on a daily basis and get your clothes dry. I've got a little Chad lantern there which cost me about £5 back in the UK. Down this side it's just all my sort of personal junk hanging up off the floor so that I know where everything is. The base camp bag's just full of spare clothes and odds and ends, books and things like that. I've got my down jacket ready to grab because every day's the same around here. On the night time, come about tea time, you want to grab your big down jacket and you've got a torch a head torch in there and things like that, so that as you're wandering around you don't get falling over and breaking anything. And the little pockets around the tent. And here I've got my personal junk, I've got a radio, a book, all that sort of stuff. And this side is quite good. I've got my suntan lotion, which is essential. I've also got my toilet paper in case I have an emergency in the middle of the night. And I've got the most invaluable piece of equipment I've got, which is a pee bottle. Basically, in the middle of the night, if you wake up and you're busting for a pee, which you generally are, because you have to drink so much anyway because of the dehydration risk out here, you end up, the last thing you want to do is get out your sleeping bag and go to the urinal, which we've built over the way. So you end up with a spare water bottle, which you then take a pee into. The danger is though, obviously, you need to make sure that you don't get it confused with any other bottle you've got. So between that one, there's my drinking one, there is a bit of a difference. So I'm not going to get them confused in the middle of the night. One other good thing that we've got is surgical masks. I use it sometimes, not all the time, but because it's so dry at night, if you're in your sleeping bag, it's really dry, arid air. Putting a surgical mask on, a dust mask, also means that when you breathe out, you've got some of the moisture from your breath actually staying around your face, and it helps to keep your throat from drying out. I mean, you can tell I'm quite hoarse here already just talking to you, but it's just the dryness in the air, there's no moisture whatsoever. As far as the rest of the tent goes, this part here, this is my main exit. I just use an entrance, I just use this for my shoes. At the other end, I'll keep my climbing bergen, my rucksack, and my heavy duty climbing boots. And that just doesn't get touched when I'm back down at base camp until I go back up again. We've been up and down the hill about 3 or 4 times now in different acclimatisation trips, and it's good to get back down here for a rest. It might seem a bit cramped to people to look in here, but when all the washing's stowed away and the sleeping bag's unfurled, it's cosy and you've got a bit of privacy as well. It's good that everybody's got their own tent. Then that's basically my tent. Oh, and a pillow I stole from Byman Airways, sorry. That's about it. Well, I mean, when we go up the hill up to advanced base camp, there's not a lot that I actually take with me. I mean, like I said before, all the stuff's actually up the hill. So all I've got in here, I've got a small wash kit, toothbrush and flannel. And one thing that I have got, which I do think is quite good, a couple of little film cans, one full of shampoo and one full of toothpaste. Just saves carrying a bit extra weight on the hill. You're never going to use a full one anyway, so why carry it? In the bottom of the rucksack as well, one thing that I never go anywhere without, spare hat, spare gloves and spare sunglasses as well. Snow blindness and the brightness out here is a real danger to your eyes. And if you lose either your hat or your gloves, it can cause you serious problems. So for the sake of a tiny bit of extra weight, that goes in the bottom of the sack. My sleeping bag goes in as well. I mean, normally if we were back in the UK or a temperate environment, I would have this completely and utterly waterproofed, because at the end of the day it could save your life, and the risk of rain and precipitation is that much more greater than it is here. Out here, sleeping bag into the rucksack, a warm top and a windproof jacket or a smock, along with your hat and gloves and your basic essentials, and that is it, along with water and the radio, which I'll put into the side compartment on the top of the sack there. That is me equipped to walk up to advanced base camp, which is about, I don't know, about 17-18 kilometres from here.
So about how heavy is that?
Helium, not heavy at all, it's easy. It's just a couple of basic things to get you from A to B. There's no weight in it, and there's no other loads to go up from here now anyway.
Okay, well, another question. How heavy is that on the last kilometre to ABC?
You don't really feel the weight of the rucksack, you just feel the weight of the lack of air in your chest. You're just dying for breath all the way up. I mean, as time goes on, it gets easier. I mean, I find it easier now to walk up to ABC than it did, say, the first or second times. Like I said, we've been up and down 4 times now. And you can actually carry like 2 or 3 times the weight if you need to take extra food up to stock up the higher camps or anything like that. You can carry a heavier weight and walk the same distance in probably less time, let alone the same time, to compensate for the weight you're carrying. Just because you're getting A, a bit more acclimatised, and B, probably a bit fitter as well, because of the exposure that you're having to this type of environment on a weekly basis. We've been here for what, about 6 weeks now, and there's only what, 2 or 3 weeks left to go. I mean, this is about as acclimatised as we're going to get, so the guys are all actually really strong and in a good position to go for the summit now. But that's basically how the environment affects you physically. The weight of the rucksack doesn't really matter, because you're going to be absolutely dying when you initially start anyway, whether you're carrying a heavy load or just a sleeping bag. it really knocks it out of you. But like I said, it's getting easier now. And going up the next time, I'm sure it'll be even better. And that's basically that one.
Well, thanks for that, Pat. That was just chock full of good information and tips for people, not just climbing Everest, but anyone who's doing any recreational mountain climbing or camping or anything like that. It's just really, these guys had their act together, and it was just a real pleasure to spend time with them. A lot of really good people at base camp, and I have to tell you that going back recently and seeing base camp without the Royal Navy Royal Marines there was a little bit disconcerting. It was a little bit strange to see the area that they had their camp basically empty. So anyway, getting back to next week's episode, we're going to check around their camp a little bit more, see in detail some of the really amazing things that they had, and just what it's like to have a large expedition and not a small one like ours, or even smaller ones like like Julian and Rupert's and Stewart's. So in any case, glad to be back. Happy to rejoin the weekly release schedule, and I also wanted to say that from here on out, I'm going to do my best to keep these episodes, again, from here on out, at twice the resolution I was showing before. So they should look really good if any of you are playing them on a television set. They won't be DVD quality, but they'll be pretty close. So I hope all of you guys enjoy that. And again, if you have any questions about anything that you've seen, just shoot me an email. I get back to people usually right away, if not within a day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week. The Rest of Everest is downloaded all over the world every week. If you enjoy watching and would like to show your support, then take a look at my website. Aside from having lots of additional blog entries from the expedition updated every week, there's this little donation button on every page. Now, many of you have pressed that button, and your generous contributions are helping to cover my hosting fees. If you haven't donated but would like to, then just contribute any amount. In return, I'll give you access to the video and audio dispatches I sent out while we were actually at Everest. It's pretty interesting stuff. Contribute $25 or more, and I'll even throw in an iPod-compatible version of the film Everest: The Other Side. That's the project the entire podcast here is based on. As always, our announcer is Marlon May, and our music is provided by Wendy Wu. Check her out at wendywoo.com. Thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching The Rest of Everest. For more information on the expedition, please visit therestofeverest.com.